All right, take your Bible tonight and let's go to the book of Daniel, chapter number 12. The book of Daniel, chapter number 12. It's a joy to be back with you in the service this evening. Thank you so much for coming. It is my honor and privilege to be your servant for this week. And I pray that the Lord will help me to serve Him and you well by ministering His word to your heart. Thank God for the Bible. Thank God for those beautiful words and wonderful words of life. I echo what Pastor said. I do recommend the Henry Morris Study Bible. And I've thought about getting another one. This one's not worn out, still in good shape, but I thought about getting another one just so I won't get asked every night of my life why my Bible's so big. I don't particularly like the attention that it draws, but when I've spoken about getting another Bible, Brother Matthew Ramsey always says I can't do that. It just wouldn't be right and look right and feel right if I didn't have this Bible. And so thank God for the Bible and for all of you. Good to see everyone. Good to see certainly Brother Bobby Stewart. We love and appreciate him and thank God for how God is using him. As Pastor said, in places that we're not used and can't go, we can go through supporting him financially and praying for him. So we do thank God for what the Lord is doing through this man. And thank you so much for the update tonight. And good to see Brother Kirk here tonight. And I mentioned Brother Ramsey. And anybody else that's visiting, may the Lord bless you for being in the service. I'm reading tonight from the book of Daniel, chapter number 12. And I want to reference several verses in the chapter, but I'm preaching primarily from verse number 4. Daniel chapter number 12 and verse number 4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. As I spoke to you last evening, Pastor and I agreed that I would preach and teach on the subject of AI. And in the service tonight through Thursday night, take any questions that you might have at the end of the service. So this is a Bible study. Thank God for the Bible. I love studying it. I love learning the Bible. I love learning something new about God from His Word every day of my life. And so we're going to study this subject of AI. We began last night. That is an acronym for artificial intelligence. I can't re-preach last night's sermon. Don't have time. But I will remind you that by definition, there is no such thing as artificial intelligence. The word intelligence, as it is defined by any English dictionary, is that mental capacity that can only come from a conscious, sentient, personal being. A machine, a computer, a robot does not possess intelligence in and of itself. Intelligence cannot be generated from a machine, a computer, or a robot. By definition, it can only come from a conscious, sentient, personal being. You have to have a mind, you have to have a brain in order to have intelligence. And you can take a computer, a robot, and machine, and humans can program information into that system through a binary code of ones and zeros. But all that that machine, computer, or bot can possess of itself is information imparted to it by intelligence. And yet we are being told tonight that these machines are in fact sentient, that they are self-conscious, self-aware, and that they are thinking, that they are learning on their own without the help or need of human aid. If that is true, and I don't doubt that that is true tonight, if that is true, we need to understand the ability is not coming from within the apparatus, from within the machine, but there is some intelligence out there that is controlling the apparatus, controlling this medium, the machine, the computer, and the bot. So I want you to understand there's no such thing by definition as artificial intelligence. Those two terms together are mutually exclusive. I don't believe that there is a such thing as artificial intelligence, but what I do believe is happening to cause these mediums to be intelligent, conscious, sentient, thinking on their own, is that they have been co-opted by angelic intelligences. So that the intelligence in the machine, the computer and the robot, is the intelligence of fallen angels and demons. All right? I believe that's what we're dealing with. I believe that this has happened before, that it's happening again now, and that the goal of it is to, through the medium or the apparatus of the machine, the computer and the bot, to merge human intelligence with angel intelligence. Okay, so last night I talked to you about what I called the first AI. Our government will tell you the first AI was created and began to be used by our military in 1955. I showed you last night, it goes way back further than that. So we began in the book of Genesis. We began in the Garden of Eden, chapter number 3, when a fallen angel comes and tempts our first parents to take and eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that when they would eat of the knowledge of good and evil, this tree, this fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, that they would be as gods, little G-O-D-S. That's a reference to angels. You'll be like the angels. All right? So there is a transfer of angelic knowledge to human beings at the beginning of the creation in the garden, for which our first parents take the bait. And already there's this merging of their intelligence into ours, this knowledge that God forbid. Now, I want to preach tonight not only about the first AI, but I want to talk about the future AI. And this prophecy concerning the future that is given to Daniel here in chapter number 12 and verse number 4. I want to say a few things about it and I'll be done. Number one, I want to talk about the when, W-H-E-N, the when of our prophecy. Now I want you to look at verse number 4 again very carefully. It says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end." All right, so when will this prophecy that Daniel has been given by the Lord, that when given to him is shut up and sealed, when will this be unsealed? When will this be unveiled or revealed? Verse 4 is clear that it is at the time of the end. You'll notice also that this is referenced in verse number 9 in this chapter. Verse 9, "And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end." Verse number 13, "But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days." We have at least 4 times in the chapter where we are told that the prophecies given to Daniel 2,500 years ago are prophecies concerning the end, prophecies concerning the last days. Do you believe that we're living in the last days? Do you believe that we are in the time of the end, that we are at the end of the end? I know the last days began 2,000 years ago. But what does that say about our day, our time, and the generation in which we're living? If the last days began 2,000 years ago, we certainly must be in the last days of the last days, or in the end times of the end times. These prophecies are about the end, the time of the end. When these prophecies, Daniel is told, will be unsealed, and once unsealed, will be understood. Don't you believe tonight that you and I can understand some things about prophecy when those prophecies are fulfilled, that perhaps people who are even writing these prophecies down thousands of years ago might not understood about them living so far in the past from the time of their fulfillment. It's not hard for us to understand the prophecies about Israel becoming a nation again since we've seen it fulfilled. You understand that? these prophecies given to Daniel about the end are going to be unsealed at the end for further understanding. All right, so there is the when of this prophecy. Now, number two, I want to say something about the what of this prophecy. In verse 4, what is the prophecy concerning the end? The prophecy in verse number 4 is that many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Many are going to run to and fro, and in that, knowledge is going to be increased at the time of the end. Now, most prophecy scholars see in that phrase, many shall run to and fro, a prophecy about the development in travel in the last days. And that what we're seeing here, that many are going to run to and fro, and the construct suggests that they'll be running to and fro throughout the whole earth, is that this is a prophecy about modern means of transportation, so that this would be a prophecy about things like trains and planes and automobiles and boats and ships and the such like that allow mankind to traverse the planet, to run to and fro throughout the whole earth in a way that they have not been able to do in times of the past. Now, I don't make it a habit of mine going around and correcting scholarship or correcting agreed upon beliefs prior to our time. I certainly don't think I'm smarter than anybody that came before us. And so I love studying the beliefs and interpretation of those scholars and preachers and teachers, both present and past. So I certainly don't in any way want to contradict, I'm not contradicting the idea that what is meant by running to and fro is fulfilled in modern day travel. I believe that's right. But I also believe there's probably more to this prophecy and statement that men will run to and fro in the earth than just a prophecy about modern day travel. All right? I believe the running to and fro in the earth in verse 4 can only be understood by the companion prophecy to it, and that is knowledge shall increase. All right? So whatever men running to and fro in the earth means it's going to have something to do with knowledge increasing in the earth as well. Certainly the increase in knowledge has given us the ability of inventing modern means of transportation. No one would deny that. But what I'm driving at tonight and suspicious of, and this is just my opinion, and I'll tell you right up front, it's just my opinion, so it's probably not any better than anybody else's opinion here tonight. But my opinion is these things go together, the running to and fro in the earth and the increase in knowledge, and that the way men are able to run to and fro in the earth in the last days is through the medium of increased knowledge. So that what we're looking at in verse 4 may involve planes and trains and boats and automobiles, but may find its most perfect fulfillment in something like the internet and AI. I mean, think about it tonight. How do we really run to and fro? What is the fastest way to run to and fro across the globe? Is it to get in a car? Well, I'll tell you, I get in an automobile every week of my life and transverse the southern part of this country, and I want to tell you that, it's better than walking or being on a horse. But it sure feels like every trip I take, Brother Kirk, gets longer and longer and longer. It doesn't feel like I'm getting there very fast to me. And you can get on an airplane, and certainly you can travel faster by plane than you can by car. But there's all the time that goes into that as well, getting to the airport and standing in long lines and TSA and waiting to board and delays of your flight and cancellations of your flight and all the things that go into that. I'm simply saying this before I move to my third point. What is the fastest means of travel that we have in the earth today? It's the internet. You can get on the internet tonight, and at the click of a button, typing in any location on the earth, you can immediately be present in that place with a clock on your screen through the video cameras in that location and see everything that is going on there in any part of the earth. If you type in, what's happening in London, England right now on the internet, it will bring you up to cameras in Trafalgar Square in England in real time. You can be present there via the internet, seeing exactly who's there, exactly what's going on at the exact moment in that place, and you can do that anywhere in the earth, can't you? Anywhere in the earth. All right? I think the fastest means of travel that we have, maybe not in bodily form, but for our minds, is just to access the internet and the AI capabilities in it to take us in real time anywhere we want to go on the face of the earth. All right? So we have a prophecy here that men will run to and fro in the earth and that knowledge shall increase. So I'm submitting to you tonight, I believe the fullest way that we can comprehend and understand this prophecy is through our modern technology via the internet and the AI systems that run it. You think I'm off base on that? Does that sound good? Now, I'm not saying it ain't planes, trains, and automobiles, but I'm saying it's more than that. It's more than that. And in case you did not know tonight, the current automobile you're driving is controlled by the internet and AI. In case you did not know tonight, the plane that you get on is controlled by the internet and AI. There's not a vehicle that you get in today that is not linked to the internet and controlled by the AI. All right? So unless you have a vehicle that was made in the early 80s, 50s, 60s, 70s, back in that time, if so, you're safe. Anything newer than the early 80s is linked to the internet. It has a computer in it. They're tracking where you are and where you go and know every mile that you travel. You understand that tonight? Now I want you to see a third thing. I've said something about the when of this prophecy. And I have said something about the what of this prophecy. That men will run to and fro in the earth in the end time. And knowledge shall increase. But I want to say something about why. I want to answer the question of why. Now, why is there going to be an explosion of knowledge in the last days? Why will there be an explosion of knowledge? All right? How is it that men at the end are going to run to and fro in the earth and knowledge shall increase? And let me just point this out if you're taking the notes, if you're taking down the outline, and I know that some of you are. You want to put in there that the word for knowledge in verse 4 is the exact same word for knowledge back in Genesis chapter number 2 and verse 16 and 17 for the knowledge, the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good. So the first time this word is used in the Bible, that is used here in Daniel 12:4, we've already examined last night. And the first time this word is ever used in the Bible, it's used for the forbidden knowledge. That knowledge that God has forbid mankind from having. So in other words, what Daniel is prophesying here to us about the time of the end is that very knowledge that God forbid our first parents from having, that they went on and grasped for anyway in the Garden of Eden, is the same kind of knowledge that is going to increase in the last days, that men will be grasping further for this forbidden knowledge of the angels. All right? So there is the when, the end times, and there is the what. Now, why? Why is knowledge increasing? No one would debate tonight that knowledge is increasing in the earth. Before the year 1900, knowledge doubled in the earth every 200 years. All right? Before 1900, knowledge doubled in the earth every 200 years. All right? In 1945, knowledge was doubling in the earth every 25 years. All right? So we've seen an exponential rate of growth in knowledge from 1900 to 1945. We've gone down from 200 years to 25 years. Every 25 years it's doubling. In the year 1982, knowledge was doubling in the earth every year. Once a year, knowledge was doubling in the earth. In the 1990s, knowledge began to double in the earth every 6 months. So every half year. So knowledge doubled in the earth twice in the year in the 1990s. In the early 2000s, listen to me now, in the early 2000s, knowledge began to double in the earth every 3 days. Right now, knowledge is doubling in the earth every 11 and a half hours, according to the IBM company. Every 11 and a half hours. Now, those statistics, Brother Bobby, were given to us 3 years ago by IBM. For the last 3 years, I have been asking the Internet to give me an update on the increase, and it says we're still at every 11 and a half hours. That's still what it says. I suspect with the increases we've seen in the last 3 years in the capabilities of AI, it's increasing at a much faster rate than 11 and a half hours. So to put that in perspective, all the data, of all the knowledge possessed on the earth, 90% of it has come to us in the last 5 years. Did you hear that? Are you thinking about that? Of all the knowledge possessed on it, 90% of that we have gained in the last 5 years. If that's not a fulfillment of Daniel 12 and verse 4, I would love to hear your interpretation and explanation of Daniel 12:4. Now, why is that happening? Why is this happening in the earth? And the best I can tell, there are 2 answers or 2 possibilities that would explain why this explosion of knowledge is happening in the earth. And the first explanation or first answer given for why we're seeing this exponential growth of knowledge is because they would say the theory of evolution is true. All right? And so the evolutionary paradigm would say, well, of course this makes sense that this type of knowledge is increasing in the earth because every successive generation is evolving and the human mind is evolving. And therefore, men are getting smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter. So this can easily be explained by our evolutionary progression. And now, to the evolutionists, they believe that they have clear and concrete fact. They have concrete proof now. This is the missing link. They've never had the missing link to prove that evolution is true until these developments in technology or tech knowledge. This advancement in our knowledge, they would say, is proof positive of the evolutionary paradigm. The human mind must be evolving. We must be getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Now, obviously we know that's not true. Obviously we know that everything about the evolutionary paradigm is a lie. It's all false. It's all fake. It's not true. And so we can easily and quickly discount that as a valid answer for why there is such an increase in knowledge in the earth in these recent years. All right, so if you're here and you are under the age of 30, raise your hand. You're not in trouble. Raise your hand real high. Get them up. No, some of you are alligator army. You don't have to be embarrassed. Get your hand up if you're 30 years or younger. All right, now you can put your hand down. That's about half this congregation tonight. So thank you for being in the service. All right. You need to be on guard and be careful because you have some of the evolutionary paradigm at work in you because of the influence of society upon your life to make you think that you are smarter than your parents. To make you think, honestly, young people think today, like never before, think they're smarter than their parents, and they certainly think they're smarter than their grandparents. And even amongst Christian folks, even amongst youth groups and young people in churches, and even amongst young preachers today, there is some of this evolutionary ideology that is at work inside of them without them knowing what's happening that causes them to think they are smarter than the people who came before them, and certainly smarter than the generations that came before their parents' generation. All right? And that's why for so many people that are 30 years age and younger, you can't tell them anything. You can't teach them anything. They won't listen to anything because they think you're stupid. They think you're unevolved. They think they're smarter than you. They think they know more than you. They not only think they have more knowledge than you, they think they have more understanding than you. They think they have more wisdom than you. And I hear this from pastors all over the country. They're pastors all over the country. They're ready to pull their hair out, and everywhere I go, they're bringing this up in conversation. They say, I don't know what to do about, the millennial generation, those born after 1980, or especially the Gen Zs, those born after the year 2000. You can't preach to them. You can't teach them. You can't tell them nothing. They know everything. They're all know-it-alls. They won't take counsel. They won't take advice. They're just going to do what they're going to do. And the reality is they think they're smarter than we. Now, if you're here and you're 30 years old, or, I hope that's not true of you. Amen? I hope what I have just said is not true about you. All right, if it is, you need to repent tonight of the evolutionary mindset that has crept into you and deceived you to make you think you are smarter than those who have come before you. If that's not your mindset and you are teachable, all right, and you do have respect for the generations that come, then certainly, I'm not just throwing you in with the whole lump of Gen Z or the millennial generation. All right? I'm not trying to insult you if that's not true of you. I hope that it's not. If it is, you need to repent. Okay? Because I will assure you tonight, these current generations are not smarter. All right? They are not intellectually evolved, because these generations believe there are 96 genders and you can choose which one you are. These generations believe that a man can get pregnant and have a child. These generations believe that eating meat is bad for you and bad for the planet. These generations believe that global warming is an existential threat that is ready to destroy every one of us at any given minute. So I'm telling you tonight, these current generations believe that communism is a good form of economy and a good form of government, and just can't understand why we won't embrace that. So I'm telling you, you are not smarter than the generations that came before you. You may be able to work a cell phone better than them, and you may be able to navigate current technology, but you are not smarter. We are not evolving. That is not the answer. So then what is the answer for why? That's big point number 3. Why there is this increase in knowledge. So for me, the only explanation for this is that we, this current time, over the last 125 years most specifically, have tapped into a higher source of knowledge not available to previous generations. Do you remember what we studied about what was going on before the flood last night? The exchange of knowledge to human beings, what was going on there, and how the Bible describes that happening, and the histories of that period describe what was going on, the exchange of knowledge from angels to human. I believe that's happening right now. I believe that's been happening for the last 125 years. I don't believe that man is smarter. I don't think that we have figured things out on our own. I think that mankind has tapped into those ancient sources of knowledge and tech knowledge specifically. And that again, mankind is receiving information from fallen angels. This forbidden knowledge. That's what Daniel is prophesying. We have sought through the medium of some of the drugs that I have mentioned last night, higher states of consciousness, to put us into communion and league with these forbidden sources, this angelic, this higher consciousness, this higher knowledge they possess. They're trading these secrets of their knowledge to mankind, and that is the reason we're seeing what we're seeing. Are you listening to me? What was happening before the flood and immediately after the flood at the Tower of Babel, that God came down to stop, that God came down to destroy, that God confounded their languages and spread mankind into 70 nations in the earth to stop this exchange of knowledge from happening. It's now happening again, that it's predicted in the Bible it would happen again. It's letting us know that we're living in the last days. Now I have one last point I want to give you tonight. Number one, I've talked about the when of this prophecy. Now I've talked about the what and I've talked about the why. Now I want to talk about who. I want to talk about who. Who among mankind has been cavorting with fallen angels and demons to receive this knowledge from them? All right? Are there any instances on record, historical instances in these modern times, in recent history? Do we have a record of mankind in league and communion with these evil entities, making agreements and deals and exchanges with them for the knowledge they have. And so I want to conclude tonight by saying we do have that. So what I want to do now to conclude this service is I want you to listen to certain names that I'm going to give you of men who have been on the cutting edge of technology for the last 125 years. And I want you not to listen to me. I want you to listen to them in their own words and their own testimonies about how they have come to the knowledge that they have had to bring us into the advancements we've seen in the last 125 years. So I want to do that tonight. I want to do that again tomorrow night. And then I want to do it on Wednesday night. I don't want you just to listen to me. I want you to listen to these individuals who are the creators of this technology. And I want you to listen to the technology, the AI itself, what it says about itself. And I want you to hear them in their own words, and then you can decide. You can go out of here and say that I'm a conspiracy theorist. You can go out here and say I'm a nut. I don't blame you. Maybe I am. You're probably right. But I don't want you just to hear me. I want you to hear their own testimony. Number one, who here has ever heard of Nikola Tesla? Right? Most hands in the building have gone up. You have heard of Nikola Tesla. He was born in the late 1800s, lived about 1945. He was a Serbian Jew, born in Serbia, migrated to the United States of America. If you know anything about Nikola Tesla, you know that he is recognized as the father of all modern invention. Okay? Elon Musk named his battery-operated car line Tesla after Nikola Tesla. Right? You know why Elon Musk did that? Because Nikola Tesla invented the battery as we now know it. He invented the car. Not Henry Ford, but Nikola Tesla invented the car as we now know it. And the first car as we now know it was a battery-operated car that Nikola Tesla built for himself that he drove around in. Thus, Elon Musk named his battery-operated car line from the father of this invention, Nikola Tesla. All right? Nikola Tesla was the one who posited certain information about the Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt, and how that it was a conductor of electricity and antenna, and very much like a cell phone tower. All right, he believed all of that about the Great Pyramid. And through that, Tesla believed, and it has been proven true, that there's electricity in all of our atmosphere and all the ions of our ionosphere, as well as electricity in the ground. All of Nikola Tesla's own properties, dwellings, and structures were electrically powered without poles, without wires, without electric companies, without substations, from electricity that he had harnessed from the atmosphere and the ground. He suggested to the United States government that they could offer free electricity to every person on the face of the earth, that there was no need to build electric companies. There was no need to drill and harvest fossil fuels to power the electric companies and the substations and the crews that would put up poles and lines to all the structures that receive electricity, that this could be done without all those agency medium and that everyone could have it for free. And Thomas Edison said, why no way. There's no money in that. So he got patents over Tesla with the United States government, patents that included contracts with the oil companies for their fossil fuels, then to build these electric companies and their substations all over to make as much money for the government and for the companies, the electric companies and the oil companies, as could be squeezed out of the American people. You got that? All this technology originated with Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla made many inventions. One of them was called the death ray, and everybody laughed. It was a directed energy weapon. They said, that's the most ridiculous thing we've ever heard of, until, of course, through his technologies, we see them being used all over the world today. We see them being used by the United States of America. Likely what they used to set Hawaii on fire and Los Angeles on fire, and these directed energy weapons they use to cause the Havana syndrome on any American or group of Americans that they want to target without us realizing what they have used to target us. All this technology comes from Nikola Tesla. He had an IQ of 160. You have to be 140 to be a genius. Okay? 140 is a genius status. Nikola Tesla was 160. Just in case you was wondering, we do have people on the earth right now. One man in Korea alleged to be the smartest man on earth with an IQ of about 245. That's one of the highest IQs ever scored. The most intelligent man in the United States of America is an old southern boy rancher in Missouri with an IQ of about 225. Nikola Tesla had an IQ of 160. When asked how he got his inventions and where his ideas came from, this is what he said. So you can listen to Mr. Tesla in his own words and judge for yourself. He said, I was visited almost every night of my adult life from extraterrestrials, beings that came to me and explained these technologies to me. He said, I left a notebook and a pencil beside my bed every night when I went to sleep, and the ETs that visited me every night and talked with me would wait for me. They would explain these technologies to me, and then when I would go to sleep, these ETs would write all of the blueprints and outlines for the technology down so that when I woke up every morning, I already had it in written form from the ETs that gave it to me. Who do you believe these extraterrestrials were that were visiting Nikola Tesla and writing down his... Now, if you have an IQ of 160, you're smart, but how smart do you have to be when someone's feeding you all the answers and writing it all down for you on the paper? I guess you have to have a certain amount of intelligence to understand what they've given to you and implement it. But Nikola Tesla did not claim credit for the inventions that he made, but ascribed the credit to the extraterrestrials that gave it to him. So that's Mr. Tesla in his own words. How many of you have heard of Albert Einstein here tonight? Anybody ever heard of Albert Einstein? Okay, everybody's heard of Albert Einstein, right? Brought us into the nuclear age. His theory of relativity equals mc squared. You're all familiar with that. Einstein was a brilliant scientist and also a contemporary, at least casual friends with Nikola Tesla. Einstein, like Tesla, had an IQ of 160. So he certainly was a genius. All right? No one would doubt the genius of Albert Einstein and the physics mind that he had. But listen to Albert Einstein in his own words, how he began to understand nuclear fission, how he began to understand atoms in the realm of physics and how to split and cause fusion through the splitting of those atoms. This is Mr. Einstein's own testimony. He said, I had many thought experiments. In his thought experiments, he practiced transcendental meditation, an Eastern practice, from Buddhism and Hinduism to access spirits in other dimensions. Practicing transcendental meditation, Mr. Einstein said, through his thought experiments or thought labs, that entities and beings of light, beams and orbs of light would appear to him, and gave him the information for E equals mc squared and his understanding of the atom and fission or the splitting of it and the energy that could be produced. Now, no doubt Mr. Einstein was a genius to understand all that, but he did not take credit for it himself. He said that beams and orbs of light came to him. Beings of light came to him and gave him the physics, the science of this physics to understand the atom and how to split it and create fusion and nuclear energy. Okay? Well, you don't have to believe me tonight. You decide whether you not you believe Mr. Tesla and whether or not you believe Mr. Einstein. All right? Now, these men are influenced by a man, and I've not mentioned him in my other teachings when, upon request, like this week, I've been asked to do this. How many of you have ever heard of Aleister Crowley? Mr. Aleister Crowley. All right, we have several hands here tonight. So Mr. Crowley also lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I believe died in 1945, or perhaps it was 1948 that Mr. Crowley died. Interestingly enough, that the nation of Israel was reborn. Now, Mr. Crowley was an intelligence agent from the MI5. You've heard of MI6, James Bond, all that stuff. Well, part of the intelligence division in the British government is MI5. Mr. Crowley was a spy in the MI5. He was also a very, very, very public Satanist. He was a worshiper of Satan, made no bones about his worship of Satan and his membership in the Church of Satan. Mr. Crowley said many times he was the wickedest man on the face of the earth and the wickedest man that ever lived. He was very grotesque in his perversions and his immorality and all the sex slaves that he had, women and children that he abused. He referred to them as the great whore and the scarlet woman, and loved to refer to himself as the beast of the book of the Revelation, believing and trying to get others to believe that he himself was the Antichrist, the very man of sin. Mr. Crowley came to the United States of America. He loved New York, but he said his favorite city in the whole world was New Orleans, Louisiana. When he spread his Satanism by MI5, the British government sending to America to corrupt the American government, to get the American government involved in World War I and World War II, Mr. Crowley began to disciple others whom he brought into the Church of Satan here in the United States of America. One of those was Mr. Jack Parson, Dr. Jack Parson, who was the head of our NASA program and the inventor of the jet propulsion engine here in the United States. A very devout disciple of Mr. Crowley. Also, L. Ron Hubbard, who was another devout disciple. Fellow Satanist with Aleister Crowley, followed his teaching. L. Ron Hubbard is the man who invented the church, or started the Church of Scientology, of which Tom Cruise and many of your Hollywood celebrities and your famous singers are a part of this satanic cult and religion, all of this coming out of Aleister Crowley. And it's interesting, Aleister Crowley channeled many fallen angels. He was very well known for channeling the voices, a medium of fallen angels. The fallen angel that Mr. Crowley is said to have channeled the most was some fallen angel by the name of Lamb, L-A-M, interestingly enough, just pronounced Lamb, not spelled L-A-M-B, but L-A-M. And Mr. Crowley made many portraits of the Lamb that he channeled, and when he made portraits and drawings, it was always of the gray aliens. Now, there had been many accounts and sightings of aliens far, far, far back into antiquity, far beyond Mr. Crowley in the early 1900s, but he is the one that introduced the concept and idea of the gray alien to us and gave us the sculpt and the script or the picture script of these gray aliens, so much so that many scholars believe that while Crowley was in New York through his sex magic seances, that he actually opened a portal to the gray aliens and all the sightings of the gray aliens, of which there have been millions and millions of accounts of those, which I believe are just fallen angels or else the offspring of fallen angels. That Mr. Crowley's the one that opened the portal to that and brought them down through the veil into the earth in New York in the early 1900s. A very wicked man, no doubt about it in his own testimony that he is channeling fallen angels and demons, and very much involved with intelligence in the United States of America, and often called the father of our modern NASA and space program, since he had so much influence on Jack Parsons. You following with that? How many have ever heard of Alice Bailey? All right, Alice Bailey is a part of Theosophy. Maybe you've heard of Madame Blavatsky, the Russian theosophist. She channeled fallen angels and demons. Madame Blavatsky, B-L-A-V-K-T-S-Y, however you pronounce that. Can't get it out right. You've heard of her, and she influenced here in the United States of America one Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey was involved with the beginnings and origins of the United Nations and its formation in New York City, Lower Manhattan, New York. Alice Bailey channeled a fallen angel that she said his name was the Tibetan. And the Tibetan is alleged to have dictated her 45 books that she wrote down. And she discipled one, Mr. Richard Mueller, who was the President of the United Nations at its beginning and the father of Common Core that Barack Obama put in all of our educational system. And he said that he owed all of his understanding of the occult and the occult world that was instituted in the United Nations, the governing of the United Nations, from the channeler Alice Bailey, had channeled the Tibetan to him for the Common Core curriculum that would brainwash all children in the public school system in the United States of America. I'm just taking you back to the sources and what they themselves have said. How many have ever heard of of Robert Oppenheimer. All right? Another Jew, New York. All right? He's running the Manhattan Project. He's the guy that built the first atomic bombs, taking Einstein's science E equals mc squared, how to split the atom for nuclear fission, all right, nuclear energy. And Mr. Oppenheimer builds 3 bombs. You know, Mr. Oppenheimer only had an IQ of about 130, so he was below genius status, not a genius, and a terrible mathematician. Could not understand physics, could not understand Einstein's physics for E equals mc squared. Did not have the mind to be able to do it. But yet he is the man that spearheaded the Manhattan Project to build the first 3 atomic bombs. One dropped on New Mexico, and the other 2 dropped on Japan at the end of World War II, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, right? Now, it's always been questioned how in the world a man who was not a genius, who only had 130 IQ, and who failed the advanced mathematics courses and could not understand the advanced math of physics to build the atomic bombs, how in the world he was able to do that, which he told us often in his own words when he was channeling the fallen angel Shiva, one of the top 3 deities worshipped by Hindus, Brahma. You know, in the Hindu religion, everything and everyone everywhere is God. Right, but they have 3 chief gods. They have the Brahma, the Vishnu, and the Shiva, and Mr. Oppenheimer was very fond of channeling the Shiva fallen angel. And the most famous quote from Shiva is, "I am become the destroyer of worlds." And in the Hindu religion, this fallen angel that they worship in Hinduism, Shiva, is said to be the one who creates through destruction, the one who destroys worlds and by destroying creates. The most famous line from Shiva in the Hindu Vedas, that is their holy book, is that the Shiva said, "I am become the destroyer of worlds." And if you ever listen to any of the comments, statements by Robert Oppenheimer, he was very fond when channeling that fallen angel Shiva to say of himself, "I am the Shiva, I am the destroyer of the worlds." You got that? How many of you have ever heard of Adolf Hitler? All right, so 6 of you have heard of Adolf Hitler. Okay, a few more hands, thank you very much. All right, how many of you know that Adolf Hitler was in close contact with fallen angels? All right, we're not just using this, as a pejorative. We're not just using this as an insult to insult him. That man was in league with the devil. Well, we could certainly surmise that or deduce that or extrapolate that from what we know about him, but listen to him in his own words when he said, "I have made a covenant with Satan." All right? You know that both he and the leaders of the Third Reich had many seances where they were calling down and calling up fallen angels and demonic spirits to guide them in their technology. Now, the chief scientist in the Third Reich, the Nazi regime, under Adolf Hitler, was a man named Werner von Braun. How many of you have ever heard of Werner von Braun? All right, only 2 hands. Werner von Braun, get your hands up high. Okay, maybe we've got about 6 hands in here tonight. All right, so he is the chief scientist in the Third Reich, Nazi Germany. You should know about Werner von Braun, and you should know about the Third Reich, because it still exists in the United States of America in very strong ways tonight, because at the end of World War II, when we went into Nazi Germany, the United States of America gathered up 1,600 of their best scientists, engineers, and doctors, brought them over to the United States of America. This is known as Operation Paperclip. You can look that up and study it out for yourself, Operation Paperclip. We took 1,600 German, Nazi, Third Reich scientists, doctors, brought them over to the United States of America, gave them full immunity and full citizenship in the United States of America, and put them over our NASA program, over our virology centers and medical centers, made them the scientists, doctors in our space and medical programs, because when we went into Nazi Germany at the end of World War II, we were shocked to find they were 50 years ahead of us in their technology, 50 years ahead of us and ahead of Russia. The only reason the Nazis did not and would not build an atomic bomb when they could have built one before us or Russia during World War II is because Adolf Hitler's pride wouldn't allow him to build an atomic bomb. He said that was Jew science. So we bring 1,600 of their scientists over here and put them in charge of America in very many ways. The Fourth Reich exists in the United States of America to this day, and put Werner von Braun over our space program and its developments and technologies. All right, now I live about an hour and a half from Huntsville, Alabama. How many of you know anything about Huntsville, Alabama? All right, Huntsville, Alabama is where one of the space centers are. You know, you have one in Florida and you have one in Houston and you have the one in Huntsville, Alabama. And how many of you know that Trump this past week moved SpaceX, Space Force, from Colorado over to Huntsville, Alabama? That's an hour and a half from me. They have museums. They have museums built to Werner von Braun. That's where they located him. They have museums built to him in Huntsville, Alabama. This Nazi, this German scientist, loyal to Adolf Hitler to the very end. And yet they have homages, statues, and museums in Huntsville, Alabama to this German scientist. Now, I said that they were 50 years ahead of us in their technology, Nazi Germany. And that all the technology came from the mind of Werner von Braun, and even the Nazi scholars and scientists that worked with him could not understand him, where he got the information that he had, because they said there was no human on earth that possessed this information other than Werner von Braun, and that the information he possessed was in no books known to men, nor taught in any university or school known to men, so that even other brilliant German scientists could not ascertain where in the world Werner von Braun got all of his information, and all he would ever say, quoting from his own words, was, had a lot of help from the other side. How many of you know about the spaceship that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, 1947? You ever heard about that happening? And there are three non-human entities, NEH, non-human entities, aboard this spacecraft. And Truman sends General Eisenhower to Roswell, New Mexico to collect the craft, to bring it to Area 51 there in the corner of Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Area 51, for this craft to be reverse engineered. Anybody know what Eisenhower called that project of confiscating that craft in Roswell, New Mexico, 1946? Anybody remember what he called that? Project Jehovah. The original statement was that that craft had been seeded here by other entities from beyond planet Earth, something extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional that had been given to us as a gift. Most of our technology has come from the reverse engineering of the technology seeded to us from these other entities. I could talk a lot about Valiant Thor tonight. I could talk a lot about a lot of other interesting individuals. I'll just close. Y'all are kind of acting like you're ready for me to close, so I'll close. How many have ever heard of Elon Musk? Okay. Anybody here ever heard of that guy? All right. I like to refer to him as Elon Muskrat. I know you think he's your friend. I'll assure you, this dirtbag transhumanist is not your friend. All right? Now, Elon Musk has an IQ of 160. He's a genius, certainly not the smartest man on earth, but a very intelligent man. But you all well know that he has technologies that are cutting-edge technologies. Technologies that he has patents on that is far advanced from his peers. All right? So where does Mr. Musk get the technology? And you certainly know that he is one of the main creators of AI technologies, and particularly his Grok AI systems that right now are the fastest, most intelligent AI systems on the earth, turning out Grok 1, 2, and 3 with promises to be at Grok 4 by the end of the year, and early next year, 2026, to be at Grok 5 with exponential speeds of knowledge. His are the fastest. Faster than Meta, Mr. Zuckerberg, faster than OpenAI and Mr. Altman, faster than Google and the Gemini. Mr. Musk has the most advanced technologies in these areas. This is what he began saying back in 2014, and has consistently said it from 2014 up to the present time, quoting him in his own words concerning AI technologies: "We are summoning the demon." I would encourage you on anything that I've said tonight, go look it all up for yourself. I hope you do. I want you to. It will not be hard to find many repeated statements of Mr. Musk concerning AI technologies that we are summoning the demon. Mr. Musk, in his own words, has said on numerous occasions that he is an alien who began to live 5,000 years ago. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying that's what the man says. You can be the judge. And you're going to say, well, what do you think? I don't know. If it come to be found out that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just telling you in his own words. You can specifically look up him saying this on Joe Rogan's podcast, where he says to Joe Rogan, I've told many people many times that I'm not a human that was born 50-something years ago, but I'm an entity that began to live and exist from 5,000 years ago. And he says every time I tell people that, they laugh and think I'm joking, to which Mr. Rogan does not laugh at all and says, no, I don't think you're joking. I take you seriously. He said, I've always said you're an alien. I've always said you're not purely entirely human. To which Mr. Musk says to Mr. Rogan, well, thank you. You're the first person to believe me when I tell them that. Maybe we should listen to what some of these people say. Brother Matthew Ramsey has interesting videos on his phone that he has shown me, and I've seen other such-like videos from the alleged nanny of Elon Musk when he was a child. Now, anybody can make a video about anything, put it on the internet, and here I am telling you not to trust everything you see on the internet, and certainly not trust AI, so I don't know whether that's true or not. But there are interesting testimonies from his nanny and even from his brother and his sister that certainly tell us that he has been involved and in communication with entities beyond the veil, that he has been using portals. He has been using portals to communicate with these extra interdimensional beings since he was a child and is still doing so to this day. I want you to hear him. Mr. Musk is not your friend. He's not on our side. Ever since Trump, and I'll be done, ever since Trump signed his second day in office, just mere hours after his inauguration, and I'll talk more about this in the next 2 nights, that Mr. Trump signed his executive order that he called Stargate to spend $500 billion to accelerate our AI technology engineering to get us to artificial superintelligence by 2027, a mere couple of years from now. But Elon Musk was so excited, he was so thrilled and excited by President Trump's executive order that, interestingly enough, Trump called Stargate, which is another word for portal, wormhole, black hole. The Bible calls them windows, doors, and gates. These things are mentioned in the Bible. There are portals. There are wormholes, black holes. To use biblical language, there are gates, there are doors, and there are windows to other dimensions beyond our three-dimensional world. And beyond our three-dimensional world and these other dimensions are many beings, personal, intelligent beings that live in these dimensions. It's interesting that Mr. Trump named his AI executive order Stargate, or portal. And when he did so, and I'm done, Elon Musk has not ceased to rave with excitement by saying that we are on the event horizon to the singularity. How many of you have heard that language, the event horizon? How many have heard the language of singularity? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you know what Mr. Musk means when he uses the phrase event horizon and the word singularity? How many of you know what he's talking? You should look those things up. He's using Einstein and Rosen's language in their discovery of black holes that they believe was the same thing as wormholes or portals to other dimensions. It's these two Jewish scientists, Mr. Rosen and Mr. Einstein, that first tell us that there are more dimensions beyond our three dimensions of time, space, and matter, and that there are intelligent personal beings that live in these extra dimensions beyond our 3D world that we can experience with our 5 senses. Okay? Mr. Einstein and Mr. Rosen said that when you come to a wormhole or a black hole or a portal to other dimensions, you will, at the rim or the edge of it, be at the event horizon. And once you enter the portal into other dimensions, the wormhole or the black hole, within the hole you are now at singularity with the beings, the intelligent personal beings that exist in those other dimensions. So the goal of the portal, wormhole, and black hole is to bring you and I that are in these three dimensions of time, space, and matter into singularity with the interdimensional beings that exist within those other dimensions that can only be reached through the portal. That's the only way that singularity can come between us here and them there. So the word event horizon is a physics term Mr. Musk is using, coined by Mr. Einstein and Mr. Rosen, and the event horizon describes the surface of the black hole or the wormhole or the portal. And at the event horizon, or at the opening of this portal, it's called event horizon because the gravity is so strong once you enter the rim, once you are in contact with the event horizon, the gravity is so strong, you're at the point of no return. You cannot go back. You will be sucked by the gravity into the portal and into the singularity with what exists in the other dimensions. Does that make sense? So that when Mr. Musk said that when Mr. Trump signed that executive order, we are now at the event horizon, what Mr. Musk is saying is that we are at the edge of the portal where the gravity is so strong there's no turning back now. We will enter the portal because we are at the event horizon. There's no turning back with AI now. There's no turning back. It's inevitable. Okay? And because we are at the event horizon, we are at the very precipice of the singularity, entering that portal to become one, a singular unit with the personal intelligent beings that exist in other dimensions. Okay? AI. Now, I want to say to anybody here tonight that's a born-again Christian, okay? You don't need AI. You don't need artificial intelligence, and you certainly don't need angel intelligence. If you're a Christian, you have available to you almighty intelligence. You have the Word of God, and you have the mind of Christ. You have the Spirit of God in you to interpret the Word of God to you. The highest level of intelligence is in dimensions beyond our 3D world, but it is not these lesser, lower gods and entities that are angels. It is Almighty God Himself, the omniscient, omnisapient God. If you're here and you're not saved, you need to repent of your sin, turn to Jesus Christ, and give your life to Him. I love what 1 Corinthians 1:30 says, that Christ is our wisdom. Jesus Christ is the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding that you and I need to make sense of this life and the next, to make sense of these dimensions we live in and whatever dimensions exist out there and whatever life may exist in them. We need Jesus Christ tonight. He is enough.